Yo, what is good YouTube? I'm Richie Kim, and today I'm going to be bringing you all the performance review on the Way of Wade Ice Blood 2. Before we get started, if you all enjoy sneaker content just like this, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button down below, and please hit that bell notification button so you never miss another video just like this one. But anyways, let's get right into it. As always, starting off with the traction, the Ice Blood 2 features a multi-directional traction pattern. You have like a somewhat herringbone traction throughout most of the shoe, except in the forefoot and like on this like pod of the heel. You're gonna get like the squiggly line traction pattern up in this forefoot area, and then I don't even know, kind of like a squiggly line pattern over here as well. But overall, I would say that the traction is good. I wouldn't say it is the best traction though. When you first play in these, you do have to break in that traction. It is not great at first, but I would say after a few hours of play, it does get much better. And if you are playing on your cleaner courts, you are going to have no issues at all. You're going to be able to stop on a dime. It does have some squeak, so if you do like squeaky shoes, this does do that. If you are playing on your dustier courts, you might experience some slipping or sliding, I should say, from time to time. I think it really just depends on your overall court condition and like how worn down the court is as well. I wouldn't say this picks up like too much dust, but I think, you know, doing the occasional wipe definitely does help. So yeah, if you are playing on your dustier courts, just make sure you wipe and you should be okay. Just, you know, be a little cautious because you might slide to a stop here and there. On cleaner courts, you're really not going to have any issues. Overall, traction is good, but I wouldn't say it is the best traction. So moving on to the cushion, the Ice Blood 2 actually features a dual density foam setup where 75% is Boom and 25% is Cloud Plus. And the way it's set up is this is actually like a non-removable insole. So you're sitting right on top of the Boom, and that's like this top chunk right here. You can actually see it right here. And then underneath that, you're gonna have the Cloud Plus foam. And this shoe is actually pretty damn comfortable. In the heel, you do get a good amount of compression, a good amount of bounce, of like an adequate amount of impact protection. So yeah, it's very comfortable in the heel. As you move towards the front, you know, you still have the same cushion setup. And I wouldn't say that it thins out or anything, maybe a little bit, but I do think it does feel a little bit more contained and more firm just because you do have like this TPU outrigger here, and it is caged on the medial side as well, right? So yeah, it definitely feels a little bit more firm up there. But it's still pretty damn comfortable overall. I would still say this is, you know, more of a guard style cushion setup. It's definitely not the most impact protection, but very comfortable, at least for me. And you know, I do like to feel very light and quick on my feet, so I really did enjoy this cushion setup. So yeah, cushion setup, you know, just don't expect a lot of impact protection. And yeah, I mean, cushion setup for me was actually very good. So moving on to the materials, the Ice Blood 2 features pretty much an entire mesh upper, and it is very light, very breathable. You do have a bunch of fuse overlays in those higher wear areas, and to just kind of give this shoe some structure, because this mesh is very flimsy. And if it didn't have the fuse overlays, I don't think this would be the best shoe, but thankfully it does. Although fuse does kind of make the shoe like feel cheaper, I definitely feel like it is necessary for this particular pair of shoes. But yeah, you know, you do have the fuse overlays in the higher wear areas. It adds durability, it adds structure to the shoe. You do have like the exposed mesh, and around it you do have more of that fuse, and around the back you do have that fuse material. As you move towards the tongue, or what would be the tongue, you do have like this very exposed open mesh. It's nice and soft. I would say it isn't the most padded, but if you do like to crank down your laces, you won't really feel the laces digging into the top of your foot too much unless you really crank them down. So yeah, I mean, obviously the material usage on the shoe in terms of the quality is not the best, but I would say in terms of the performance, it does get the job done very well. So moving on to the fit. This is the one part of the Ice Blood 2 that, at least for me, is not great. And that's just because I do have slightly wide feet. This shoe is very narrow. I went up a half size and it is still very, very narrow. I do feel a lot of pressure, especially in this midfoot area. So if you have wide feet, honestly, I would probably just stay away from the shoe. Like, it's just not going to be a good fit. And in order to make it fit in terms of the width, you got to go up probably like a whole size. And if you go up a whole size, you know, it's going to be long. The shoe might not fit you great in certain areas, which means you might lack support in certain areas and so on and so forth. It's honestly just like a list of cascading problems. So wide footers, I'm sorry, but this is probably not going to be the shoe for you. If you really do want a pair of these for wide footers, I'd suggest going up a half size. Medium footers, or I guess normal footers and narrow footers, I think you could probably go true to size. Slightly wide footer, like I said, I went up a half size and it is still narrow, and I did feel pressure in that midfoot. Outside of the width though, I think these actually felt very, very good on foot. You don't have like too much dead space up in the toe box area. You do actually have, this is basically like a one booty upper. You do have like this whole like inner booty, and then this mesh and fuse pretty much go on top of that. But overall, I still would consider like this almost a one booty upper. Maybe half booty is a better name for it. But yeah, I mean, overall, the fit was good. You know, I did feel very, very snug in this shoe. It's really, the only issue with the fit is the fact that it is very narrow. But outside of that, I did enjoy the fit of this shoe. Felt very snug and very comfortable. So overall, I would say the Iceblood 2 does have a very good fit. Just watch out because it is very narrow. So moving on to the support, I didn't really have any issues with the support in the shoe. You do have this giant plastic piece on the outside of the heel. You should also have an internal heel counter as well. I didn't have any heel slippage. I feel like the sculpting in here is pretty decent too. So, you know, my heel felt very locked in, very comfortable. As far as side-to-side movement on the footbed goes, I didn't have any issues there as well. I think the materials do a great job of making sure your foot is not sliding inside of the footbed. You actually have this plastic piece and foam piece that wrap up onto the upper of the shoe that kind of acts as like a sidewall for your foot. In terms of the hard lateral movements, you're going to be covered there as well. This is a fairly wide base, and this whole piece right here just like protrudes out to make sure you aren't rolling over on those movements, which is really good because this does kind of have like a rounded outsole. So I'm glad they did add that for an extra support feature. In terms of the torsional rigidity and stability, there is a shank plate in here, but as you all can see, like this is still like definitely not the best in terms of that torsional rigidity and stability. However, I will say I didn't really have any issues with that. I just never had any problems when it comes to the rigidity of that shoe. Whereas, you know, I think it was the KD17, you know, I did have some issues in that department. So yeah, I mean, weirdly enough, even though this isn't obviously the best in terms of torsional rigidity and stability, I had no issues. If you are a bigger dude, you might have some problems, I will say that. But I think as a smaller player or like lighter players or guards, you should probably be fine. So overall, support for me was good. Just be cautious if you are a bigger / heavier player because you might run into some issues because of the torsional rigidity and stability of the shoe. So the Iceblood 2 retails for $119, and for $119, I do think this is a good shoe for the most part. I definitely don't think this is gonna be for everyone, right? I think the biggest drawback to this shoe will be either the narrowness of the shoe or the fact that it does lack that torsional rigidity and stability. Like I already said, for me, you know, I didn't have any problems with that. The biggest issue for me was the narrowness of the shoe. Me as a slightly wide footer and going up a half size, I did still feel a little bit of pressure up in the forefoot / midfoot area of the shoe, but not to the point where I was actually cramping or anything like that. I will say though, if I did go true to size, I would definitely have some cramping in the shoe. So just be careful if you have wider feet. But honestly, everything else was like perfectly fine. The material quality could have been better, but it does do the job in terms of the performance just fine. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think it is a solid shoe, but it's definitely not going to be for everyone. One thing I forgot to mention though is this shoe is extremely light, and that is something that I absolutely love about this shoe. Yeah, it just feels, it's like you have feathers on your feet, honestly. But yeah, if you did want to pick up a pair of these, I'll leave a link for you down in the description box below. But that's pretty much it for this performance review. If you all like this video, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button down below. Please hit that thumbs up button for me. Leave a comment, as they really do help me out. Check out these videos over here, and that's pretty much it. Until next time, peace.